Welcome to Russian history. Today's subject, Peter the Great. Peter the Great is best known for dragging Russia out of the medieval era and into modern times. One major target of reform was the military. Before Peter came along, the Russian army mostly consisted of villagers, led by village elders, going into battle in defense of the motherland. Peter didn't like this one bit and overhauled the entire military. He introduced a standing army and began conscripting serfs into the service for life. Now, before Peter the Great, the Russian Navy was virtually non-existent. But by 1945, due mainly to Peter's efforts, the Russian Navy had over 500 ships and 24 different shipyards. Of course, all of this military buildup was quite expensive. Where was Peter to get all the money he needed to modernize Russia's military? The obvious answer is to raise taxes, and that's just what he did. Peter invented a soul tax that applied to almost every male in Russia. Unfortunately, this wasn't producing enough money, so Peter took the next logical step and introduced the beard tax. Continuing in this vein of logic, several other taxes were implemented, including taxes on hats, chimneys, and nuts. With all of these exciting new taxes, Peter was able to reform much more than just the military. He went on to change the face of education in Russia as well. Having traveled all over Europe, Peter understood how important science and math were to military efforts. Why, without a knowledge of angles, his soldiers wouldn't be able to effectively use artillery. Without an understanding of engineering, they wouldn't be able to build fortifications. And without knowing how to navigate, his navy would be useless. So Peter ordered that many schools be built. They ranged from schools of medicine, science, to math. Peter believed that his military leaders should be educated, but he believed that the general public ought to be as well. Apparently, Russians were viewed as primitive and stupid, and all the other countries were laughing at them and their big stupid beards and those hats they wore. Peter decided he didn't like those stupid beards either, or those stupid clothes. So he demanded that every nobleman shave his beard and wear tights to look more European. In addition to making his people more European, Peter wanted to Europeanize the Russian economy. So the Russian government took over. The state took control of all industry and began making more factories. It also began to set official prices on goods and began importing commodities from Europe. Soon enough, Peter decided to build himself a city to really get things rolling. It was to be built in the middle of marshlands, which meant that hundreds of tons of earth had to be moved in. Unfortunately for his 40,000 workers, Peter was dead set on building his city and didn't care about working conditions. In the end, a rather impressive city was built, and only several thousand workers had to die. Peter then ordered hundreds of merchants and bourgeoisie from Moscow to move into his St. Petersburg, or else. At some point in all of this, the head of the Church of Russia died. Instead of replacing him, Peter thought it would be a good idea to place the church under governmental control. In the following years, the clergy spread nothing but goodwill towards the state and towards Peter himself. Probably because that's who was paying them. Well, all of this support from the clergy made it a lot easier for Peter to convince the people to accept his reforms. And in the end, Peter the Great did some pretty impressive things. By his death in 1725, Peter had changed Russia from an upside-down country full of serfs to a right-side-up country full of serfs. The end.